I'm here in Kyiv. I just arrived this morning with a small NATO team and we had very good meetings with the president. I was in the Rada. But now I'm at a place of a heating plant.
In Kyiv, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte was taken to one of the city's devastated heat power facilities just hours after Russia launched another wave of strikes across Ukraine. Ukraine's first deputy prime minister, Shmyhal, led the tour, showing Rutte the scale of damage left behind in the eastern Darnytskyi district, where a plant providing heat to thousands of residents was severely hit. Rutte said the timing of the attack sends what he called a really bad signal, raising serious doubts about Moscow's intentions on the eve of fresh peace talks.
Not just here.
He added that instead of weakening Ukraine, the bombardment appears to have only strengthened the resolve of the Ukrainian people. Ukrainian officials say the power plant was used strictly for civilian heating and had no military function, calling the strike a clear war crime. Shmyhal said the damage to Ukraine's energy system is severe and warns that repairs will take a considerable amount of time. Writing on Telegram after an emergency meeting on energy security, Shmyhal said repair crews and equipment are being urgently redistributed to stabilize the situation. Officials are also considering redirecting reserve heating supplies to buildings facing prolonged outages as winter conditions bite. Russia has repeatedly targeted Ukraine's power grid throughout the nearly 4-year war, with strikes intensifying during the winter months. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy said he will remain in close contact with Ukraine's negotiating team ahead of a new round of talks aimed at ending the full-scale invasion. Zelenskyy met with Rutte during the visit and renewed calls for allies to deliver more air defense systems to protect critical infrastructure. Rutte confirmed that Russia fired a record 32 ballistic missiles overnight, calling the barrage deeply concerning ahead of diplomatic efforts. He said the strikes inevitably raised the question of whether Russia is serious about pursuing peace, adding that he still hopes diplomacy can prevail.
They're receiving the information from the Russian side that the team that then they went to their leader and they will come back with the feedback and they will discuss this feedback. My team will be in touch with me. I'll connect with them and we'll listen to what the Russians have brought. What compromises are they ready for? The signals must come not only about Ukraine. I think the group knows what to do. We must look for the dialogue, but nobody plans to surrender.
I think the president, Ukraine, is absolutely ready to play ball, to come to a deal with the Russians, which has to be, of course, acceptable for all parties, and particularly, of course, for Ukraine, no doubt. But, of course, this starts you to question, makes you question whether the Russians are serious. And let's hope they are. And I know the American president is doing everything he can to bring this terrible war to an end with his team, and I commend him for that. He's the only one who's able to do that. But last night is a really bad signal.
You're always with our state. And I'm very glad that you're with us at such a harsh moment, undoubtedly tough moment of this war, when the Russians have once again disregarded the efforts of the American side. There was a request from the President of the United States to refrain from strikes on energy and critical infrastructure, and you're aware of that, for the duration of the meetings of our negotiating teams. And the President of the United States said that strikes should be withheld for a week. It's very important, and it was an important decision. In practice, this began on Friday night, and last night the Russians, in our view, broke the promise that they've given. So either Russia now believes that a week consists of less than 4 days instead of 7, or they are really putting all their eggs in the basket of war. And they simply waited for the coldest days of this winter to come, when the temperatures across large parts of Ukraine are below -20 degrees Celsius. And I expect our partners not to remain silent about what's happening. It's critical for everyone to continue supporting the defense of our country and our people. It is Patriot systems that counter ballistic missiles the most effectively, and you're aware of that, and that means that missiles are needed, more missiles are needed, and the deliveries must be as prompt as possible.
Yes, I'm absolutely confident that the money will be there, because we all know it's crucial. We have now 2/3 of allies participating in the program, but you're right, there is an issue of burden sharing. And at the moment, some allies are doing a lot of allies are doing something, a few are doing nothing, but most are now involved in Pearl, but we need a better burden sharing within NATO. That's what we are working on. We know that some countries, like the Canadians and the Norwegians and the Germans and the Dutch and the Danes, but also the Danes and Norwegians and the Swedes together with the Baltic countries, they're doing quite a lot. We have other countries who are also doing relatively much, like Slovenia or Belgium, but still more can be done overall.
After the meeting in Abu Dhabi, the American side, in the end of the meeting, they have proposed such de-escalatory steps, that's what they called them, to not hit energy infrastructure. They've also raised the topics of not attacking other critical infrastructure, to be honest, but we saw that there were attacks on the railway and other facilities, but there were no attacks on energy for the most part, and the Americans thought that this will be in effect for a week. But if you look at such a peculiar thing, today they have attacked us. It was with 71 missiles and 450 drones, Shaheeds alone. If you look at the attack arsenal that the Russians wanted to use when the negotiations in Abu Dhabi have ended, then there was less of everything. So what they did, they delayed the attack, they've built up the amount of drones and missiles, and they attacked at the coldest days. So I couldn't say that somebody gifted us anything. I don't think that's what happened. Yes, President of the United States, and I believe that this was a very reasonable proposal. Let's demonstrate to the whole world and our societies that de-escalatory steps are taking place. Let's start this, let's implement this package of de-escalatory steps in between the meetings. And the Americans have suggested to have it until the next meeting. That's what it was supposed to be. And then the parties would discuss other de-escalatory steps, such as ending the war, how we see the end of the war. The meeting, not on Ukrainian initiative, was delayed, appointed for Wednesday, Thursday, and you know that. It was delayed because of the reasons that came from another direction. And in our view, the demonstration of de-escalatory steps had to continue, carry on. Our team will be receiving the information from the Russian side, that the team that then they went to their leader, and they will come back with the feedback, and they will discuss this feedback. My team will be in touch with me. I'll connect with them, and we'll listen to what the Russians have brought. What compromises are they ready for? The signals must come not only about Ukraine. I think the group knows what to do. We must look for the dialogue, but nobody plans to surrender.
I think the President, Ukraine, is absolutely ready to play ball, to come to a deal with the Russians, which has to be, of course, acceptable for all parties, and particularly, of course, for Ukraine, no doubt. But, of course, this starts you to question, makes you question whether the Russians are serious. And let's hope they are. And I know the American President is doing everything he can to bring this terrible war to an end with his team, and I commend him for that. He's the only one who is able to do that. But last night is a really bad signal.